Wonderful people, make una see a trending message online, and the headline reads: Is Mazi Nnamdi Kanu and Biafra agitation sponsored by Israeli intelligence, as David Hundeyin claims? This so-called idiot David Hundeyin, before I used to take this guy serious, without even knowing that this one is a very big stooge. Somebody who resides in Ghana. The federal government or zoo government cannot get him tracked, but they go all the way to Kenya, which I know that Nigeria and Kenya have no any common border. So with all these things that is happening, do you need a soothsayer to tell you that David Hundeyin is an impostor claiming to be an investigative journalist? Under Muhammadu Buhari, he keeps shining. Under Bola Ahmed Tinubu, the guy voice lost. There's nowhere to be found. Now, instead of him attacking the government of the day, which is his brother, he's now attacking the Igbos. Calling Igbos names, it is either Mazi Nnamdi Kanu here today, tomorrow Simon Ekpa here, next tomorrow Ngozi Orabueze. Another one is talking about Igbo governors. But the question there, now the big question in the house is this: is Mazi Nnamdi Kanu being sponsored by Israeli? If not true, a very happy one, because their sponsorship is for good, not for bad. Unlike the so-called European Union, who are sponsoring Bianco Ojukwu, Ogechukwu Nkere, and the rest of them to destabilize the Biafra movement because of what they stand to gain or lose. Anyway, let us read down the message so that we will know everything. We know the content of the message line by line. But before then, just in, Tinubu's nepotism have gotten to another different level. This is the reason why the Northerners will continue to kill themselves and others, all in the name of to sabotage Tinubu's government. And the old monkey self don't even care. Mele Kyari have been sacked as NNPC CEO. Names Bayo Ojulade as replacement, another Yoruba man. Anyway, my people, I beg here, another headlines is what we're going to treat this morning. Don't forget, today happens to be the second day in the month of April and in the year of 2025. We are moving forward, and today happens to be Wednesday. Oh yeah, let us go there. Like, share, comment, and keep subscribing. If there's one thing advocates of a united Nigeria fears, it is an expression of moral support, empathy from external spectators towards the Biafra cause and struggle. This goes way beyond active state actors in the political sphere in Nigeria, or even those foreign countries who have vested interest in a united Nigeria, but also social activities, commentators, and journalists who in one way or another aligns on the side of the divide. But let me say something here before I forget. This same David Hundeyin, he was the one who raised alarm how when Nnamdi Kanu took asylum in Israel. David Hundeyin came out and told us that Israeli government and the police, or whatever they call them, their security personnel, told Mazi Nnamdi Kanu, or rather told Mazi Nnamdi Kanu to leave their country. They don't want to deal with a secessionist, somebody who is fighting for the suppression of his own people. This is the same David Hundeyin who blow that, what will I call it, a whistle, who blow that trumpet that Nnamdi Kanu have been chased away from Egypt because Egypt said they have nothing to do with the Biafrans. The same guy now have come out now to give us a false alarm again. And Igbos on the bloggers, no one is saying anything. No one is even abusing this guy. No one is even tracking this guy wherever he is to deal with him, because this guy have been raising false alarms against the Biafrans. They are triggered and react so emotionally and aggressively. They throw out disinformation and propaganda to waylay the said external spectators and force them to discontinue their inquiries and further investigations of the complex Nigeria-Biafra conundrum. For instance, Mr. David Hundeyin was fixated on his acclaimed investigative journalist work, entertaining his audience with a shallow criticism of the West and East neocolonial activities in Africa. Took no keen interest in the IPOB Biafra struggle, nor the contemporary legal tussle between the IPOB leader Mazi Nnamdi Kanu and the Fulani government and the justice thereof, right until a South African social activist spoke out against the incarceration of the IPOB leader and in support of the Biafra struggle for self-determination. Then David Hundeyin irrationally reacted by not only accusing the IPOB leader and the movement of terrorism. He claimed that even the Nigerian government, with all its resources and potential, have not been able to prove right through its judicial system and also the international community. But he also alleged that the Biafra struggle is sponsored by the Israeli government and intelligence, going further to accuse Mazi Nnamdi Kanu of being an Israeli spy. A pawn who thinks he is a king in his own game, he said. Mr. Hundeyin made these false unfounded assertions, knowing fully well and actually counting on the deep-seated animosity of South Africans against the Israeli state. First, for the historic support of the apartheid regime in 20th century, and secondly, for what the South Africans described as an apartheid regime of Israeli and Palestine. Hence, it is imperative to address the misinformation and propaganda of Mr. Hundeyin and dispel every perverse notion being trotted by him and his likes to spin the narratives and ambush prospective and willing spectators who wishes to take interest in the Biafra quest for self-determination. First, the sponsor of the current quest for Biafra self-determination is no other than the Nigerian government and their allies who committed a genocide against the Biafran people, murdering over 5 million men and women and children, and until this very day fails to grant justice and give the remnants of their descendants breathing space, instead continues to oppress and exploit them mercilessly. Secondly, there are millions of people around the world whose supports claim to possess or spring up from the Jewish ancestry. Benai Jews in India, Swifi Jews in Ghana, the Beta Israelis of Ethiopia, and the widely disputed and controversial Igbo Jews of eastern Nigeria, Biafra, etc. It is from this community and school of thought that the leader of the indigenous people of Biafra, IPOB Mazi Nnamdi Kanu, belongs, and long before he made his position known, the sentiment and theory of Igbo people and nation having Jewish ancestral ties was first established by the British colonialists themselves. A theory they postulated after discovering the 6-point star sail of wisdom, which would later become the Star of David during the Zionist movement era in southeast region of the amalgamated Nigeria. Some Igbo anthropologists, researchers of the 20th century, upheld these postulations and made further theory of support. It is on this theory that Mazi Nnamdi Kanu and the rest of the Igbo Jewish community anchor their faith and claims of Jewish ancestry. However, Kanu's verbal expression of Jewish ties was to galvanize political support for his cause and quest for Biafra self-determination. A possible action to take by any nation, or rather any non-state actor who aims to familiarize his cause with state actors. Kanu believed his faith and Jewish ancestry ties would be a relative reason to attract a timely Israeli sponsor and support for the marginalization Biafrans, or rather for the marginalized Biafrans in Nigeria. Unfortunately, it did not work. In fact, IPOB senior officials familiar with the case have recounted that the Israelis has over time demonstrated that their national interest currently does not align nor permits for a prospective support towards the Biafran cause for self-determination, and hence cooperates more with the Nigerian government on a number of issues concerning the Biafra struggle. For example, when the Nigerian military tried to assassinate the IPOB leader back in 2017, the IPOB leader escaped and managed to make his way into Israel, seeking political asylum. His requests were denied, and he was asked to leave the country as soon as possible. You get the point now? And even during his latest ordeal in Kenya 4 years ago, where he was kidnapped, tortured for 8 days, and eventually rendition to Nigeria, IPOB senior officials uncovered that after serial investigations, it was ascertained that the entire Western Intelligence Agency network, including the Israeli Mossad station in Kenya, the largest on the African continent, had profound knowledge of the clandestine ops and ultimately gave their blessings with a resounding silence. Contrary to the false accusations of Mr. Hundeyin, it is his government and the top political military elites who are deeply involved and cooperate fantastically with the Israelis. The very seat of power in Nigeria, Asarok, was consulted by top Israeli intelligence scientists and technicians. Till today, Israel continues to cooperate with Nigeria in the military sphere and otherwise, while Nigeria votes and alleged frustrates South Africa's effort to kick out Israel as an observing member of the African Union. Make no mistake, it is needless to deny that political interest sometimes aligns and at some point falls apart. Russia is today recultivating its moribund relationship with the United States under Trump's administration. Even Russia, who opposes Israel war in Gaza and Palestine, is to some extent cooperating with Israelis in Syria in defense of the Druze and Christian communities there. Thus, if in the future Biafra or the proponents of the Biafra struggle ends up establishing a relationship with the Israelis in advancement of the Biafra cause for self-determination or nation respectively, it is not because they seek to destabilize anyone or inherit political enemies and vendetta, rather to defend the lives, properties, interests, and freedom of Biafran people and region. And this applies not only to the Israelis, but to every nation or country who familiarizes and finds the Biafra nation's cause and interests aligning with their own respective national interests. The United States has predicted the possible demise of the Nigerian state by 2030. A credible theory Mr. Hundeyin is well aware of. For clarity's sake, the systematic collapse of the Nigerian state is not as a result of any agitation or external sabotage, but rather due to accumulated consequences of unpatriotic actions and the inactions of the Nigerian political class. The lives of IPOB and every other agitating group, even foreign state actors, will only be there to take advantage of this inevitable eventuality. And to make matters worse for Mr. David and his ilk, Russia will not intervene in the event of a collapse of Nigeria, if not for any other reasons, but for the simple reasons that they will be in defense and play of the nascent alliance of Sahel states, which is AES in French, who views Nigeria as her number one enemy for being the launchpad for Western intimidating and imperialistic agenda in West Africa. Mr. David Hundeyin should get ready to lick his wounds because it will be terribly sour. Family Writers Press International. Bola Ahmed Tinubu don sack the group managing director of NNPC, Mele Kyari. President Bola Ahmed Tinubu has announced sweeping changes at the Nigerian National Petroleum Company Limited, including the dismissal of Mele Kyari as the group chief executive officer and the dissolution of his board. The decision, effective April 2, 2025, is a part of the government's strategy to enhance the operational efficiency of the oil giant and restore investors' confidence. A statement signed by the Special Advisor to the President on Information and Strategy, Mr. Bayo Ononoga, confirmed that Bola Tinubu invoked his powers under Section 559, Subsection 2 of the Petroleum Industry Act 2021 to carry out the leadership overhaul aimed at making NNPC more commercially viable and efficient. In a move to strengthen the company's leadership, Bayo Ojoleri, a seasoned oil and gas professional, has been appointed as the new group CEO of NNPC. He replaces Mele Kyari, whose tenure has been marked by the challenges of the country's oil sector continues to face. Additionally, Ahmed Musa Kida has been appointed as the new non-executive chairman, taking over from Pius Akin-Leru. Kida has decades of experience in the sector and is expected to provide valuable leadership as NNPC continues its transformation. The president also appointed Adedapo Segun as the company's new chief financial officer, marking another significant change in the country's leadership structure. As part of the restructuring, 6 non-executive directors representing each of the Nigeria's geopolitical zones have been appointed into the NNPC board. These directors include Bello Rabiu, Northwest, Yusuf Usman, Northeast, and Babs Omotowa, North Central. From the South, Austin Avuru, South-South, David Ige, Southwest, and Henry Obi, Southeast, complete the regional representation. In addition, the permanent secretary of the Federal Ministry of Finance, Lydia Shehu Jafia, and Aminu Saidu Ahmed from the Ministry of Petroleum Resources will represent their ministries on the new board. The president outlined a strategic action plan for the new NNPC leadership, which includes a review of the company's operated and joint ventures assets to align with the value maximization objectives. Tinubu's administration is focusing on significant reforms in the oil sector, aiming to boost domestic refining capacity and ensure energy security for the country. Since 2023, the Tinubu's administration has attracted $17 billion in new investment to the oil sector and plans to increase this to $30 billion by 2027 and $60 billion by 2030. The president also emphasized the goal of raising Nigeria's crude oil production to 2 million barrels per day by 2027, with a further increase to 3 million barrels per day by 2030. In addition, the administration's targeting a daily gas production of 8 billion cubic feet by 2027, with a further rise to 10 billion cubic feet by 2030. In line with these ambitious goals, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu expects NNPC to increase its share of crude oil refining output to 200,000 barrels per day by 2027 and 500,000 barrels per day by 2030. The push for domestic refining is crucial to reduce Nigeria's reliance on fuel importation and improve the country's energy sector. Introducing the new leadership expertise in oil and gas, Ahmed Musa Kida, the new NNPC chairman, brings over 3 decades of experience in the oil and gas sector. A graduate of Ahmed Bello University, Zaria, with a degree in civil engineering, Kida furthered his education with a postgraduate diploma in petroleum engineering from the Institut Français de Pétrole in Paris. Kida has held a significant role at major energy firms, including as Deputy Managing Director of Total Exploration and Production. The new group CEO, Bayo Ojolari, has extensive experience in petroleum processing engineering, strategic planning, and field development. Ojolari, who hails from Kwara State, previously served as Managing Director of Shell Nigeria Exploration and Production Company before his latest appointment. In a message to the outgoing board members, Bola Ahmed Tinubu expressed gratitude for their dedicated service, particularly their effort in rehabilitating the Port Harcourt and Warri refineries, which have now resumed petroleum production after long periods of inactivity. The president wishes them well in their future endeavors, emphasizing the importance of continuing the nation's journey towards greater self-sufficiency in the oil, in the energy production. So my people, now here we go take back break. Other ones, or rather other news and information, we get to you as quickly as possible. Just like, share, comment, and keep subscribing for more interesting videos. I, Ukulora, is always here to serve you. Que Messiano, my wonderful people.